guys, Kyle McCllelland with Team Pautzke. Today I'm going to show you how I fish fireballs for trout and steelhead. So I'm going to show you how I tie them in spawn sacks, which is popular for our steelhead anglers. I'm going to show you how I fish just a fireball, which is popular for trout and steelhead, and I'm going to show you how I tie them in sacks. So we have several different colors and scents here. We have anything from chartreuse garlic to brown trout to chinook to coho eggs. We're going to start off by showing you how to tie these in sacks, and we get to it here. So when I'm fishing steelhead in the Great Lakes, I pretty much like to stick to chinook, coho, and brown trout eggs. Those are just standard eggs. Those are what our fish see, and they work best for us here. So I'm going to start with some chinook eggs. These are my favorite, and I'm going to tie these in sacks. So when I'm tying sacks for winter steelhead, or steelhead in general, I like to go about 3 to 6 eggs per bag. I don't like to run anything too big. That seems to be the best size for our fish in the Great Lakes. If I was fishing in the West Coast, I might go a little bit bigger. I might go even up to a 10 egg sack. Just give them a little bit bigger bait. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add 5 eggs into my bag, and I'm going to fold the corners. And I'm just going to twist the netting around the eggs. I'm just going to twist it until it forms a nice ball. Then I'm going to take my elastic thread. This is Raven elastic thread. I like the elastic thread because it's just quick and easy. You don't have to tie any knots. I'm just going to wrap it about 6 times. Pull it tight. Wrap it another 4 or 5. Pull it tight. And that'll hold. Every now and then you'll have a bag that comes open, but 90% of the time that's going to hold flawlessly. So now I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to trim my fluff here so the bag has a nice round shape. And that's all there is to it. So now I'm going to break down my rig here. So the first part is getting a good main line. And the main line I like to run is Trilane XT Smooth Cast, and I like to go with about 12 pound. I like 12 pound, it's just a nice durable line, and most of the time I like to run 10 pound leaders, especially when I'm fishing the smaller tributaries. You can just put a lot of torque on those fish. So I have my 12 pound mono. You want to make sure to run mono as well, because if you run fluorocarbon, that fluorocarbon will sink. Mono will float on top of the water. So when you're floating your bobber, if you have a line that's sinking, you're not going to get that nice smooth drift. So make sure to run mono. And the first step is to add your float to your main line. So what I have here is an 11 gram Raven float. I'll pretty much run 3 different sizes of floats. I run an 11, an 8, and a 20. If I'm fishing a big river system like the Manistee, the Muskegon, the Grand, I'm going to run a 20 gram float. If I'm fishing a smaller system like the Little Manistee, Pure Marquette, I'm going to run a smaller float like an 11 or an 8. An 11 is probably the most versatile float. You can run this on a smaller, big river system. So that's what I'm going to show you here in my demonstration. So you have your 11 gram float on, and the first step is to add your tubing. So I have 1 16th inch Raven silicone tubing. And I'll add 2 pieces, and I'll peg this float on here. I'll go one on the top, one on the bottom of the float. Then I'll add my split shot. So this is size 5 round split shot. I don't like to use split shot with the ears on it because it won't float in the current seams as well. So I'm going to add about 5 round split shot in between my bobber and my small black barrel swivel here. So I have my size 5 round shot on. Then I'm going to add my small black barrel swivel, tie that to my main line. And then I have my leader on the other end of my barrel swivel. So I'm running about a 3-foot leader of 10 pound Seaguar Red Label fluorocarbon. And I have small black Raven BB shot all the way from spaced out evenly, all the way from my barrel swivel to my hook. And I like to run BB shot on my leader just because it's a little more stealthy. And like I said, I'll just evenly stagger it from my barrel swivel to my hook, about 8 inches apart. And that way that line is going to float nice and vertical through the water column. Okay, and a little bit on the hook here. I'm running a size 6 Raven Specialist hook, and I like to use the Snell knot. There's a million videos on YouTube you can look up that'll show you exactly how to tie this knot. It's a real pretty knot. And the reason why I like to run this knot is because it comes through the top of the eyelet. So when you set that hook, it's going to curve the hook into the fish's mouth. If you just tie a regular clinch or fisherman's knot on here, that knot's coming straight off the shank of the hook. so you're not getting that curve and that bend into the fish's mouth. It's just coming straight. And I've seen a million fish where guys, you know, will just tie it regularly, set the hook on a fish, it'll come up head shaking a couple times and pop off. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You know, when you're floating this, you want to make sure that bobber's riding nice and smooth down the current seams, and you want to adjust your weight a little bit depending on what size float you're on, so that bobber's sitting about that white line in the water. You know, you can even have it a little more. I run mine just below that stem just so I can tell if something nips it. You know, I can set the hook on right away, but you want to make sure it's at least at that white line. Now, when I'm running a jig with these fireballs, I'll show you how I set that up. It's not too much different, but it's a little different. So the jig's weighted, so I'm not going to use as much BB shot as I just showed you when I'm fishing fireballs and sacks. So I'm going to tie my leader on my hook here. I have a jig leader all tied up already. I'm just going to put it on my barrel swivel. And I'm going to run the same deal. I'm going to run it about 3 foot long, you know, 2.5 to 3 foot long. And I'm only going to run one segment of shot on my leader. And it's going to be about 8 inches below my barrel swivel. I'm just going to put 2 black BB shot on my leader. So I have 2 black BB shot about 8 inches below my barrel swivel. And I have about 2 feet from my BB shot to my jig. And the reason why I don't run BB shot all the way to my jig, like I would at the hook, like I said, is because the jig's weighted. And it's just a little bit stealthier presentation, helps it float a little better. So when I'm fishing a jig, I'm going to add 2 fireballs to this jig. And I like these, you know, they're far more durable than wax rooms. They seem to work just as well, if not better. So I'm going to add 2 fireballs to my jig hook. And that's all there is to it. I'm going to fish this the same as the spawn sack and let it ride nice and smooth through the current seams. I might even jig it a couple times, you know, throughout the hole, but that's pretty basic. So I'm going to show you guys these UV fireballs now, and I like running these especially on sunny days in clear water, bright conditions, bright baits, dark day, dark baits, and you can see how UV enhanced these fireballs are, and they just look phenomenal, especially under this black light here. So we have 2 different colors here. We have brown trout, which is has this yellow tint, and we have chartreuse garlic as well.